In this video, I will show you a secret weapon you can use if you are playing against the Sicilian defense. So this is really crazy opening, has almost never been played, so you will definitely surprise your opponents with this. So e4, c5, we are gonna play knight to f3, regular move, and then you can use this against pawn to d6, which is the modern Sicilian. So here we're gonna go for pawn to d4, which is the most played move. Black will usually capture, and then here you can recapture with the queen. And this is a very crazy variation that was sent to me by Andrew, one of our subscribers. He sent this to me on Discord, because here black usually plays knight to c6, and then this is actually a known opening, the check over Sicilian, where you can play bishop to b5. But Andrew found this crazy line where you can play queen to a4, and we will also be setting up some traps. So pretty amazing opening, easy to learn, and you only need to know 4 main variations. This is going to be the first variation. So we are basically recapturing with the queen, baiting black into playing knight to c6, which is still a good move for black, of course, but we're baiting them into playing this because we're going to slide the queen over to a4 and also pin this knight. And we're going to try to set up some tricks and just completely get black out of theory right from the opening. So here is black to move, and most likely the move you will almost always get, that's why we're going to cover it first, is bishop to d7. Because most players with black think that this is a good move, because, well, they are just unpinning, and maybe they can have some tricks with the knight, but that's actually where the trap comes in. So here we have the most spicy move for white that I've probably ever seen in the opening. We are going to play queen to b5. Queen to b5, totally crazy, but this is going to set up our trap. And that's the whole thing with this opening. We're just going to destroy the opening principles, because we are going to move the queen 1, 2, 3 times here in the opening, 3 times, but white is still doing fine, and we do have some potential chances for a trap. So this position is actually already the first trap, because, well, black might think that, okay, white is attacking this, but black might think, well, maybe I can play knight to d4, right? Because knight to d4, this is a discovered attack on the queen. Also, this knight is attacking this, and if the queen captures here, well, all of a sudden, bam, also there is this fork by the knight. So I think many players with black are going to go for this. They are going to think that you're probably some kind of noob that doesn't know how to play chess. You move the queen 3 times. They are going to try to do this attack and also potentially double your pawn. So this is the first trap, and this is completely losing for black. Because actually here, the thing you can do is you can just take their knight, and we're going to sacrifice the queen here. Because after bishop takes queen, we have bishop takes bishop with a check. And the only way to block the check is to put the queen on d7. We can capture the queen, we can destroy their castling right, and we are up a full knight in this position. So that is just an amazing opening trap you can set, and black won't know what you are playing. They will think you are just some random guy that doesn't know the opening theory, and you will get them to fall for this trap. Even if they don't fall for this trap, there are many other tricks you can use as well. So bishop b5, so queen b5, and we are threatening this pawn. So first off, as I said, this doesn't work for black, but many players will try it against you. Black can also try to play a move to protect this pawn, right? Because, well, black still has to do something here. So queen c7, I guess, is something you're going to see quite a lot. If they play this, we are going to play knight to c3. And here again, we are trying to set up tricks. So first of all, if they play pawn to a6, which is one of the most played moves, and one of the most logical moves we would say for black, they are again immediately losing here. Because we simply have knight to d5. And if they capture our queen, of course we're going to capture their queen with a check, with a fork, and we will also be able to pick up this rook in the corner as well. So black's probably going to be like, oops, I messed up a little bit, I'm going to move back the queen, and I also want to keep an eye on this pawn, right? But then you just have this beautiful move, again, moving with the queen, queen to b6, and we are going to be able to drop the knight in here, give a check, and also win material. So black is just already completely losing in this line. There's pretty much nothing black can do. For example, e6, check, king already has to move. If they move here, that's even worse. And if they go here, you can take the rook in the corner. But there are even other amazing attacking moves. Black is just losing in every single line. So if they play this queen to c7 ID with a6, they might be losing also. Sometimes they will go for this line, and then here, for example, instead of playing a6, they might also try to play knight to d4, again to try and do some tricks, but that's not really a problem. We can just move back here, get this exchange, and I will show you this in the future as well, why this is also a really good variation for white. Because this might seem crazy, but we're going to go for an all-out kingside attack here. So again, queen b5, and black won't know what's coming. They have to defend this. They have multiple ways of defending, but many of them run into problems. Probably queen to c8 is, I think, the safest way, because, well, we are still going to play knight c3, but we don't have this counterattack because the queen is not here. So that's a small difference in this position. So yeah, a6 here is still not so good for black, because we're going to play queen to b6, and then we're going to try to do this anyways. But of course, something like e6 is possible. So here, this is defendable by black. But black might go for something like bound to g6, I think, because, well, this bishop is not going to develop here, right? So black has to try something, so they can play bound to g6. We're going to play bishop e2, bishop g7, castles. They might take here to double our pawns. That's not really a problem. Knight to f6. And at some point, we're just going to move the queen again. We're going to move back with queen to d3, castles, bishop g5, for example. And this is about where I'm going to leave this theory. But the thing is, this is really easy to remember from white. We're just going to do this pattern with the queen in the beginning. And then if your opponent doesn't fall for any of the traps and they play like a top GM and they play all of the best moves, you are just going to get a position like this, which is still really good for white. Because if we take a look at this, well, this knight is actually pretty useless. It can't really go anywhere, except maybe to the edge, and then it's still looking at nothing. This bishop's not really doing anything. This knight's not really doing anything. And some variations, we might also be able to capture here and then try to win this pawn on d6 as well. And okay, we do have double pawns, but at the same time we also have this open b file. So we can even move in the rook, start pushing with the a pawn. So really good position for white. But there are 3 different variations that I'm also going to show you, which are important to take a look at if you want to try and play this secret opening weapon. So next up, we're going to go at it again, e4, c5, and we are going to recapture with the queen. They attack us, we go here. But what if they don't play this move, bishop d7, immediately, and for example, they play knight to f6 first, which is also possible, right? They don't have to play bishop to d7. Well, here, black's just simply attacking our pawn, so we're going to defend it with the bishop, so that also frees up our queen a little bit, so we can move the queen later on. And I think you will almost always still get black to play bishop d7. But really important here is that you know that you don't have to go for this line with queen here, because actually it doesn't work. For example, if black goes here and you try to take the knight, all of a sudden you are losing now, because you can see that this knight can now go in to d7 and block the check. So your entire trick doesn't really work. If you really want, you can still go for this. But as I said, it's not really super good for white. Maybe if they play something like queen c7, you can still try to go in for the knight. But I would recommend, if they play the early knight f6, just abandon this ID. And then here we are going to play knight to c3. And our plan is just in the future to put the queen on b3. And we are still going to have a really awesome position. So for example, knight to e5, black is doing a discovered attack here on the queen. I think this is a really common pattern. And as I said, queen b3 is also a beautiful move, beautiful square. We are going to put some pressure here on the b file as well. And in many of these lines, as I showed you before, black can capture on f3. And we're always going to try and recapture with the g pawn, because this opens up some potential lines for attack. And I will just show you one variation. For example, queen c7, bishop e3, pawn e6. We are going to castle queenside, of course, because our king is just really safe here, protected by all of these pieces, and we also have the potential to move the rooks over here and then also start an attack. So for example, bishop e7, rook here, castles h4. Black will probably try to attack you on the queen side, but black will always be too slow. You can just continue with a move like h5. Okay, maybe at some point here, for example, after this move, we are going to have to move the queen, but everything is still fine. Black is just way too slow. And then here, while black is already pretty much losing in every single variation, because we simply have this beautiful move as well, bishop h6 in many lines. So I'm going to try and find something here, but it's hard to find anything for black. But let's just say black pushes the pawn, right? Because they want to attack our king. Well, here we have bishop h6. And bishop h6 is a really beautiful attack, because we're going to be able to take here on g7 with the rook. And Black shouldn't allow this, of course. Let's just say, for example, they capture and then they play. I'm just going to play a random move. Here we can take with the rook with check, or you could even take with the bishop. Both are possible. For example, here. And yeah, I mean, black is just in a lot of trouble here. We're also going to play pawn to e5, and we are going to try to go for a checkmate here as well. If they capture, for example, you can capture the bishop here, so that's not really possible. If they move the knight somewhere, then you actually have a check here with the rook, and this is already checkmate. For example, bishop here, check, and checkmate. So you have beautiful checkmates in all of these lines, and all of these checkmates will happen after you play bishop h6, and we're always going to play e5 to open up this bishop, and then we're going to have these two rooks active. Sometimes the queen can even swing over in some variations, and you will always have a checkmate here. So pretty much undefendable from black. And just a small example, if they play rook over, because, well, after h6 they want to play g6 without dropping the rook, which is possible, you are still completely destroying black with an amazing checkmate. You can take here, they can take back with any pawn, it doesn't really matter. This is the best recapture for them. e5. Again, e5 is the main idea here. We're always going to open up this bishop for attack. Black can never really capture here, because if they capture, well, in many lines they will be dropping the bishop. This line is super sneaky actually, because black is protecting the bishop. So here, this is one of the most insane variations, because we are attacking the knight, we are sacrificing a pawn, we are also allowing them to attack our queen, and here we have a beautiful move. Bishop takes g6. We're just going to drop the queen. We don't care, we're just going to drop the queen. Because again, black cannot capture this. If black captures this, this is check, and then of course these bishops are working together. So this king is pretty much stuck. For example, if the king goes here, we have check with the rook. If they go here, well, multiple moves. For example, this is a checkmate, because double bishops giving check, and yeah, nothing black can do about it. Black is just completely lost. So you can even sacrifice the queen here, sacrifice the bishop. We're going to sacrifice everything. And if black captures, you can actually capture with the rook, check, check with the rook. You can double up rooks. Again, nothing really black can do. And then we're going to go for a checkmate. For example, this is already a checkmate. Check with the bishop, and then these rooks are working together to cut off the remaining squares. So again, so many different traps you can play in this position. If black takes on f3 in any of these lines and doubles up your pawns, I mean, they are going to be in a lot of trouble as well. Next up, another interesting variation. So what in this position if black plays knight f6? So black's like, I'm not going to go for this, I'm not going to go for knight c6, bishop d7, none of these ideas. I'm just going to play knight f6 here, which I don't think you will see that much, but it's still possible. While against this, you have a pretty easy and amazing line as well. You have knight to c3. Black has to do something. Here I'm going to go with g6, of course, because all of the other lines will just transpose to what I have showed you before. And then we simply have pawn to e5. Pawn to e5, we attack the knight. And of course, if they take us, well, we just take here, check, and we also win this pawn. So not really that good for black. If they play knight to c6, trying to do some kind of counter attack, which is also possible, we can actually just pin this knight with bishop to b5. And let's just say they capture here, we can take, and we just have a beautiful position. This king is in the center, this pawn is under attack, and white can actually castle on the next move, or also develop the bishop and castle queenside. So white is just winning in every single line. So even if black plays something strange like this early knight f6, this is not really going to work. And now I'm going to look at probably the best variation for black, which I think you will almost never see, which is e4 c5, knight f3 d6. We're going to go for this capture, of course, always capture with the queen. And black plays a really early a6, which is sometimes played. And I think this is probably one of the best chances for black in this opening. We're going to continue, knight to c3, and then they play knight to c6, attacking us. And we have to move the queen here. But this entire idea with the queen going to a4 is not that good. Well, first of all, because this knight and this bishop will never be able to participate. Black can just play bishop here. We will never be able to play this sneaky move, queen b5, which we would love to play. We have talked about this before, but none of this is possible. So, yeah, a little bit tough. So we're going to play queen a4 still, but it's just not that strong in this position. So probably black has to play maybe bishop d7, trying to go for this attack. And we're just going to move back with the queen. Slide back to b3, which is one of our most common squares, of course, where we're going to drop the queen in case our attack doesn't work. Still, black has to defend. Probably the best way of defending is, of course, with the rook. Black can still mess up, of course, if they play, for example, queen here. You can attack them. You can still come in with the queen. All of your tricks are still live. All of your tricks still work. But black doesn't have to fall for them, of course. Black can also play really solid. And the most solid defense is probably a6 and also rook to b8. But I don't think you will ever really get this. But this is one of the possible defenses for black. By the way, also, actually queen c8 here loses as well. Because again, knight d5, and this is a special trick here because now we have this fork on b6. We have this fork because while the pawn is no longer here. And it's pretty much undefendable for black. For example, rook here, queen b6, and then bam, we're going to go in with the knight and destroy the castling rights for black as well. So pretty much rook b8, so a6, and then rook b8 is the only way to try and defend against the many tricks. But black will probably never know this, never play this, but I still wanted to show you how to defend against this as well. So a6, rook b8. This is a little bit more of a strategic line, so here we're even going to play a move like a4 early on because we want to prevent a potential b5 push. Knight f6, bishop d3, e6, castles, bishop develops, castles, rook fe1, and that's where I'm going to leave this position because honestly this is pretty fine for both sides. I think this is a little bit better for white because white has a more central pawn. White has a little bit more active pieces in a way. Black is a little bit more pressed back, a little bit more passive. But this is pretty much equal and it's going to be more of a strategic battle. And this was really the only really decent line I found for black if you want to avoid all of the traps. But still, there are some traps in this line that you could potentially fall for as black as well. So if you enjoyed this video, you should definitely watch this video next. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!